So, yeah, one of the things that's different about this particular experience that we're having, that it is designed to be experiential. So it's not that necessarily someone's going to come on a trip like this and say, I'm going there to learn a piece of history. Everyone, we're all educators, so we know how to find out information. We can find information. The design of the trip really is to be experiential. And I think about this when I think about, a stack of pancakes, and I realize, so I can show you the picture of it. I can even tell you where that syrup is coming from, the part of upstate New York where they got that bottle and where that came from. But there is nothing like having that experience of being able to taste something and experience it. And that's really what we're going to do. And for the next few minutes, we just want to take you into that experience to help you understand to some degree what we hope to have you really truly experience. So to do that, we're going to go to a 30,000 foot view. So there's a lot of details that go into these kind of experiences. I enjoy civil rights experiences uniquely. This would be my 9th experience of this kind. I really enjoy it quite a bit, but we're going at high level. So that means in about 8 minutes, I'll be done walking you through, and maybe you'll have some questions that we'd love to try to answer as well. So one of the things we want to experience are places where this history is recorded. So the thing I appreciate about going, for instance, to the Kelly Ingram Park, which is where you see this imagery right now. When you go to that park, you not only see many, many pieces of history, but you also learn the physical place where these things happened. So an interesting piece of history is when this statue was made, which is a picture of an actual event. The research that goes behind is quite interesting as well. This young man, his picture was put on every single magazine across America, and this police officer as well. And at one point in Birmingham in Alabama, they had just really decided that to stop people from engaging in this conversation, that we would use dogs and we would use jail and we would use water cannons, anything that cause people to disperse. And so this young man actually wasn't trying to attend the rallies. There were a lot of children and young people that participated in all that happened. But this young man actually just skipped school because he wanted to see Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in person. He knew he was in town and just wanted to see him. So the fact that his image actually catalyzed so much is quite intriguing. It was not his intent at all. He was just trying to skip school. And he actually came late, so he didn't understand where the lines of demarcation were, and so he kind of walked backwards into this line where the police were. The only person in this picture that wasn't surprised was the dog. And so the dog was doing what the dog was trained to do, which was to attack. The police officer actually was quite surprised, and later his wife, who, when he passed away, she tells the story quite a bit. She said he became depressed in later years because he never wanted to be part of something like this, but felt it was his job and had trouble differentiating between what he should do and what he shouldn't do. And so in this moment, actually, when you see the actual photograph, the dog and the rope between the dog and the boy are taut, because the police officer is trying to hold the dog back. He's startled as well. Everyone's startled but the dog. The dog was doing what the dog was trained to do in this case. And the police officer was startled, the boy was startled. And later when they did this particular statue, they had trouble getting all things right. And so they did some things like the proportions of the police officer's eyes. When you get close to the statue, you'll see that his eyes are made with big glassy glasses, like he's not seeing what's really going on. The dog's teeth are extenuated far more than a normal German Shepherds would be. And so when the statue came out, the first person to see the statue was Stevie Wonder. And so Stevie Wonder was in Alabama, and so he came for the unveiling of the statue. However, the person who made the statue had never done a statue like this before and didn't realize that you have to soften the edges of everything. And so Stevie Wonder, who is blind, went to go touch the statue and actually put his hands on the dog's teeth and cut himself. And so there was a fair amount of blood that ran down the statue the first day that it came out, which meant later they corrected the problem. But many people who were there just remember the symbolism of what happened. We're going to go to moments, the places. One of the places that we'll go to is the Lorraine Motel. And this is in Memphis, Tennessee. We'll actually, in doing this, our goal is that we start where Dr. King's life ended, and then we'll continue on to build hope from there. But in going here, there's things that we'll learn and understand. You know, when we were putting this together and we were going through the itinerary, most people that live in Memphis don't call this the National Museum for Civil Rights, they just call it the Lorraine Motel. If you look at the whole name, it says National Museum for Civil Rights at the Lorraine Motel. But this is actually where Dr. King was assassinated. So where the wreath is right there is the room that he was in when he came out of that room and was shot. And then the place that he was shot, they've purchased that as well. It's across the street. And so you actually have the opportunity to go and stand where the person stood as he put the rifle in place and used that rifle to take his life. You know, as many things that happen, these experiences, you have places like this in your life as well. When something happens there, nothing more can happen in that space. So something substantial happens, sometimes there's just nothing more. Not always bad things, but often with tragedy, it's hard to use that space, that room, that area again. And so this motel would never actually have its proper use again. It's also significant, many people have asked, how could it be so random? How could you know that he would be in this motel? Well, at that time in Memphis, there was something called the Green Book that would have given the authorization of where minorities would have been allowed to stay, to lodge, to eat, to lodge, to buy, to do goods. There was only one place in the entire city of Memphis that you could sleep, this motel. So if you knew that a dignitary was coming to town, you knew that either they were sleeping in someone's home or they were sleeping here. The other thing that's interesting is we will spend time, and this is the experiential part, we'll spend time inside the space and we'll have to pull you out because you're going to go in there and you're going to find people that are loving and caring and committed and can help you understand more than what you can read about. And then you're going to say, wait, I need to know more. And you're going to talk to people and you're going to see things that you haven't seen. And you're going to do like all of us did. We all took our phones out and said, wait, I need to fact check that. Is that really true? And you'll be amazed to find out the history is there, but we're a little bit disconnected from some of it. This is a powerful place to go. I'm always amazed that when I go there, there's a lot of children there. And so to go to such a place of challenge, and there's so many children because they come in school buses. And the person taking this picture is standing in a courtyard that just to the left or right of them, there are these stances that give you more information. So even before you go in, there's all this information, film footage, everything. And then if this person taking the picture turned around, standing behind them about 50 yards is the person who is there every single day who is protesting the museum. Their thought is, how can we have anything in this space? Their experience is, we should not be in any way remembering this terrible moment. And so it's a quiet protest, but the 8 or 9 times I've been in this location, they've been there, rain or shine, they're there, and reminding us that this is a tragedy. And so as we are in this experience, traveling to places, we're going to have a chance to experience what other people are thinking about this, and then we'll have a chance to talk about that together as a group. But we're going to go to Selma, and we go to Selma, we're going to go to the Edmond Pettis Bridge. And this is where what we refer to as Bloody Sunday happened. It wasn't a single event, actually. There were 3 marches that happened at this bridge, and we'll talk about that. but more uniquely about Edmond Pettis himself. Edmond Pettis was a Confederate soldier. He was a officer, and later became the grand dragon of the Ku Klux Klan. So to hold all those particular titles, then to have a bridge named after you, and then to recognize, and you'll see it when you get to the town, you can't get in or out of Selma without crossing this bridge. It's the only way to get in and out of Selma. So if you go to one side of town and you're leaving, you must cross this bridge. And we will actually walk. So, you know, you can see there looks like a little railing on both sides. We'll walk across that bridge. It won't take us long. And you'll learn a lot about this bridge as we watch the movie Selma together. And knowing that you're going to Selma and then watching the movie Selma is really good breakfast plan. It's hard to get my attention. We want to get your attention. We want to not have you wake up in the morning and say, I'm exhausted from my nighttime experience, and then I'm having trouble really immersing in. So every night, what we're going to basically do is step out of the pool of civil rights and step on the dry land, dry ourselves off, and get situated. In the morning, we're going to put our suits back on, put our goggles back on, and jump back in completely. And so we believe that by giving you a normative place to sleep, that's going to make that an easy process. And then in terms of housing, just know we're assuming that housing is going to be double occupancy. So now in Embassy Suites, the other thing that's interesting about the sleeping in Embassy Suites is you have 2 beds, but you also have a pull-out couch, which means you have a door in between. So if someone's a snorer or they want space or whatever, they're able to do that. If somebody says, I want single occupancy, we can accommodate you. There's some cost factors to do that, but it's all doable. I just want you to know that for us on this experience, that your comfort, your ability to be rested and emotionally okay is really important. And we're also going to come up with a word. We'll come up with a code word. It'll be the word of high level of discomfort, right? So sometimes we're in a moment and something's happening, someone has said something or something's going on, and you feel like, I just have to tell you, this is a little too far for me. And then we just need a word. You know, in our family, when we would travel places, we go places, it's time to go, there'd be like a code, right? Somebody jingles their key, somebody does something to let you know it's time or it's enough. We're going to come up with a word among us in our community that says, hey, listen, I need extra help right now because this is a challenging moment that we're in. On the first day, we do something a little challenging. We're going to leave really early in the morning. It's not our desire to do that, but we don't want to have this kind of experience without experiencing the church. The church is a major piece of understanding civil rights in America. So we need to understand church. And we thought it would be valuable for us to go to a church led by someone from a minority group. And then we thought, we want to go to a church where the word of God is being lifted high and where these topics are of great value. So on the first day to accomplish that, it's a little complex, but to accomplish that, we need to leave kind of in the middle of the night. So we're leaving earlier than we would like to leave. And I promise you on the first stretch of the ride, we're not going to talk. We'll be quiet, and we're gonna talk about our transportation in a minute, but there's going to be space for you to do what you need to do in the bus. Again, part of being a community is figuring out what each of us need, and we each will need different things at different times. So our goal, though, is to go to Strong Tower Bible Church, which is in Tennessee, and I wanted you to see the name of the church so you can feel free to look it up ahead of time and get to know it. Chris Williamson is a wonderful pastor, and I think the entire church experience will be a rich one for us. This is a place, I think it's really important that when we get there, that we're rested as we can be so that we can actually be able to enjoy church together. And again, that's the first thing we're going to really do after getting on the bus. So it's going to also help us understand exactly how important church is to other communities and how they engage it. And you may see some things that are very normal to you, but some things are very different. And we'll talk about those when we get together. And then finally, this is our transportation. We'll be in a double-decker bus, and this is great for a couple of reasons. Number one, you can find the space that you want on the bus. If you want to be in the front seat, you can be as front as the driver up top. So some people find that sitting in different directions helps them enjoy the bus ride more. So you can sit in different directions on the bus, facing each other, facing the other direction, facing forward. We'll pick a spot on the bus, probably down behind the driver, where we'll keep a lot of food. So I just know that when I'm eating, I'm happy. So we'll keep food. That's always good snacks. And at some point, you're gonna have a list of things that you really like as snacks. And so as we get closer to the trip, you're gonna get a note from us and it's gonna say, what do you need? What is it that you need? We'll have lots of it. If it's Nutter Butters or grapes or whatever, we'll have boxes of them. There'll be lots of it. Our goal is so that we can stop when we need to, but if you just need a snack, you can get a snack and be right there. The bus is equipped with bathroom facilities, but also we stop, so just know in the time frame there, don't feel nervous to say, hey, I need to stretch, I need a break, I need to get out. It's also a great, if you've been on this bus, it's a great space to walk around. You can walk around and do things, and we'll show some movies on the trip as well. But I just want you to know our group is small enough that you can have some say in what happens. I love to be on a bus and be able to say, hey, can we just stop for a minute? We need to get out and stretch and walk, and I don't want to use that bathroom, whatever. We can do that. You can do that. We've got time built in well to be able to do that. And I don't want you to feel like you're imprisoned in the process. That really our goal is that we would draw together and connect. And to that end, please know that there's going to be things like the exercise we did today, rhythms that we will have that we'll move into so that we can get to know each other and get to know ourselves. I'm thinking as we're doing this exercise, this is the first time somebody's asked me this question in a long time. So I had to really think about what makes me feel like belonging. And I was like, wow, man, when I sleep, you don't sleep everywhere, right? I ever think about this, like I pastored for 30 years. So people are always nervous to sleep in church, right? So some of you have them, they're a good friend, you're good friends with them, but now you're preaching and they're sleeping, right? And they're feeling bad about this, so they feel like they have to come and confess and tell you why they're sleeping. And that worked well for probably the first 15 years, but somewhere around the 16th or 17th year pastoring, someone came to me who had been homeless. And he said, I want to tell you something. When we come to church, it's the only place that I feel safe enough to sleep. Mm-hmm. So I don't want you to think I'm not listening to you. It's just that there's nowhere else in my life that I feel that safe. So I come to church to sleep. Mm-hmm. So I do want to tell you that as we're traveling, we're going to get to know those things about each other, right? Like, our limits. And it's not our goal to part of the experience isn't to press you beyond your limits. Our goal is for you to be able to take in something experientially deep, but that may press you beyond your limits. And we're going to be here with you. We're going to do this together, and we're going to get to know each other. Other pieces you should know. People have asked, if spouses, absolutely, spouses are welcome on the trip. You're going to get to meet my wife, Gina, who's traveled with me most of the time on these trips. And we're 100% opposite. So anything you know about me, Gina is exactly the opposite. So you will have fun getting to know her. I do hope that you find in us a team, a group that you can trust, that we can and then that means we're going to talk about some of this stuff, and you're going to say, I haven't thought, I've always wanted to say, or I'm wondering, and I wonder if I feel that this is okay to say it. This is going to be an okay place to say it. I hope that we have some time we can really laugh, we can really laugh, and I think that's good. And certainly, I hope that there are places that you feel safe, that you could cry out loud. And I think, even as you were asking the question, I thought, as I'm writing the words, as they're kind of coming to me, I'm thinking, yeah, when I'm really safe, I do feel like I can cry, and I don't have to hold that back. It's okay. and certainly you'll see things that will surprise you. You'll meet people that will surprise you. You're going to hear stories that will frustrate you. You'll see hope in a way that you never could imagine that you could see hope. And then in that, I hope you, as I hope to be, less guarded, that I feel like I'm among friends, be less guarded. And I hope that I can sleep more. I'm a very energetic person, but there's a limit. At some point, I just bow my head down and I'm done. So, if that happens, just be happy for me. And I want to fear less. So the joke is that I'm really afraid of animals: bats, rats, cats, mice, deer, any animal that I'm afraid of. So anytime I go on a trip, we have an animal, we come back with an animal story. And so I always tell people ahead of time, I am really afraid of animals. No matter what you see actually happens, someone approaches me with their horse and asks me to hold it or anything like that, I'm really afraid of animals. So help me in that moment. But I want to belong, and it's our heart and hope that you come and belong as well. Are there questions that we can answer for you, that maybe some specifics that are coming to mind at this point?
There going to be any sort of preparatory like readings or recommended sort of activities or things like that that we should be thinking about? Certainly,
in preparation, we're going to have a journal for you. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we're getting journals. We haven't decided if it's this journal or if we're looking at Taylor Journal. So either this or Taylor Journal. We're choosing one that can easily open and stay open and close. And the point of the journal is, well, twofold. One is you like any learning experience, any experiential learning or service learning, anything like that, you can only gain so much until you reflect. When you have students reflect on it, why did this happen? What was your thinking? That's when the real learning happens. And so that's what we want to allow for you, is to have a place where you can do that reflecting. You can write whatever you want. We will have some prompts to help us all process together. Not that you'll never be required to share anything from your journal, but we will have opportunities to share some thoughts about what we're seeing and how we're processing. We just really do not think the trip can accomplish our objectives without recording some thinking and processing along the way. So you will have a trip journal. We may have some readings. We will have some movies on the trip. We haven't finished putting some things together, but we don't want to give you this course pack.
And the other thing that's going to happen is, depending upon the size of our group, and again, some people right now are processing this and they're thinking, they're not in the room now, but they're thinking, can I go on this? Do I have that kind of time? What do I want? What can I do to try to figure that out? Depending upon that, we may get together a time again before we go out, just for people to be able to connect. Also, because we're leaving so early in the morning, some people may say, I want to drop my supplies off the night before, or drop them off early. So as we get really close, we'll work through some of those logistics as well. The other thing I would also add is about preparation and the process. It's difficult to disconnect. I just want to say this to you, it's difficult to disconnect. And I recognize, because of our lives, the people in them, the roles that we have, some of us, we won't be able to completely disconnect. But the more that you can do before the trip to disconnect, that will really add to your experience. I want to give you some of the practical things that I've done in the past to help me disconnect. One is, when I'm traveling with somebody else who has a phone, I give that as the emergency number so I can actually turn my phone off. So then, people who kind of sort of think they need me, and they're gonna have to call somebody else. If I say, hey, listen, here's Mike's number. If you need me, I'll be with Mike on this trip. People don't call me because they don't need me that badly. They're not texting me because I don't have my phone on. And so that's kind of important. The other question that people do have, and so I would say, trying to get yourself disconnected. Take some of that prep time that you would normally have for other things that you'd have to do. Really work to disconnect. Figure out what you can do. The less you can be in a normal mode, the better you can be. there are things that you'll want to photograph that are there. You know, what I've also found is usually in a group, like a lot, even our size right now, there's somebody in here who is amazing at taking pictures. They love taking pictures. So then I don't try to take the pictures, I stop taking pictures because somebody else is gonna catch that. And then we can just share them as we're traveling.
Yeah.
And so that's another piece. Every evening, we're gonna pretty much give you most of the evenings as considered downtime. But again, you know, as much as you can stay in this restful moment, in this experiential moment, I encourage you to be able to do that. I think that will be helpful to you. But just know every evening, you know, we're not gonna be running late night activities going on. One of the things we do like about the Embassy Suite is that there's usually 1 or 2 rooms in the hotel that have a conference room in the bedroom that's about this size. So yeah, so we'll reserve a couple of those. Yeah, so the room will typically hold about 12 chairs, but actually we put 30 some odd people in those rooms before. What it becomes though is a really good headquarter room. So sometimes you say, oh, I need space where we can just come together and talk about something for a few minutes. We all experience something. We're off the bus, but we still want to talk about it for a few minutes. Or we want to pray together, or there's another activity we want to do for just a few minutes together. Or you say, I just want to hang out with some of the group for a few minutes. Where can we always do that? Sometimes if the hotel has a lot going on in the lobby, it's not an easy place to do that. So we reserve a couple of these rooms. So we'll say, hey, room 32 or whatever is our hangout room, and people can know, you know, the door will be open there. You can just go and hang out there. That's where the food will be. So that won't be far. And then the other preparation point would be that we will also reserve an extra room as we travel, because sometimes something happens. You have a night that you're not feeling good, you're not sleeping well, or something like that happens. You go, I need a room, I need my own room. So we'll have an extra room along the way to solve any unexpected challenges. And we thank God that there aren't many challenges that happen, but we'll be prepared to be able to adjust and to work with them. So.
The other end of that, is there a post experience?
Yes. We're coming up with some post experiences. Part of it will be some thoughts won't happen until after, but also part of it is just from my role in VCTLE. I want to see now, what did you learn that you think you might want to apply in the classroom? That will come a little bit later, but I do want that piece. Because the power of both belongingness in our classes and experiential learning. But that will come later. We will have probably a couple of post experiences, and none of them are required. So, but there'll be options for you.
How early is early, by the way?
Yeah.
You don't wanna know.
Well,
It's my time, okay, so if you know me, it's my time.
I'm just gonna say it out loud. This could change, but it's 3 a.m. From 3 a.m. to 11. Now, what we're trying to, here's what normally happens. So on the trip, what's really good is we always try to visit a church. But depending upon the day that you go, sometimes we visit on the way back or even midweek. But just so happens as we looked at the dates were available and the date that bus was available. So, I lived in other parts of the country that actually still rented that particular bus. So it's really a great bus to go on. So when we worked out all the details, like, okay, all these things mean you have to travel on these days. So with that in mind, we felt that we couldn't get to a church easily enough without doing something to either extend the trip or, it was just had so many pieces to it. We said, well, if we're gonna be uncomfortable, let's be uncomfortable the first day. So what that means is we will pack a really nice box lunch that day. I'm not a box lunch person. I don't like box lunches. Pack a very nice box lunch. In addition to that, and as we're talking about this, as you have certain food needs, just let me know. I promise you I'm going to work with this. If there's anything I enjoy to do, it's eat. So we'll do this well. So we'll have a really nice box lunch. So what'll happen is we'll get on the bus, we'll all be tired. And then there'll be a place on the bus where people are gonna go, okay, everyone's really sleeping if you're on this part of the bus, you know, volume down, and another place that people will say, I'm awake, I wanna play Uno or whatever, and so that'll be going on. When we get to church, we're all still a little exhausted at this point. Now we're gonna go into a very interesting, lively church service. And it's gonna be, that's gonna be experience 2, right? Experience 1 is making sure you got there and got on the bus. Experience 2 will be getting off the bus and then experience this church service together. When we get out of this church service, you'll be refreshed, like in an unusual way. Even if it's different, like this, the differences will help raise the bar in a really great way. And we'll be challenged from the word. We'll absolutely be challenged from the word. Then we're gonna get back in the bus, and now we're hungry. So there's food, and you know, there's not like, we're gonna have the food there. If you say, I get my food early, eat, there'll be plenty of food, don't worry about that. Bless you. And so that first day is a stretch, but we're trying to get to our first location by the end of the day without any, you know, tensions. So our goal is to go to church, hard stop. Our next goal is to get to our first city. Once we get there, we're relaxed. We're gonna be going to sleep. You're gonna get a very detailed itinerary just before we go. So, and again, in it will be places we can eat, things, other things you can do. Some people are gonna go, oh, no, I wanna do something. It's beyond 5 o'clock, I wanna do something. Others are gonna say, this has been an experience, I need to rest. And so we really want you to be able to take that in. And again, I encourage you, come prepared to rest in a way you haven't rested before, because emotionally, we're gonna push into something that we typically don't have the time to push into. And we want you to be emotionally rested so that you can physically push in on that, on those things. So that's kind of I would say the first day.
I have another question. I don't know if I'm getting into details more
Please.
than what I need to, but with going to this church, is there anything we should know about the dress?
Okay, good. No, these are, you're asking the right questions. So, so one thing is, this church, which is why I wanted you to see the web, to know the name of the church too. Strong Tower is a church where you're gonna find people at various extremes. So there'll be people that will be in expensive suits and others that will be in casual jeans. And so and we get an unusual path. It is a multicultural church. So multicultural churches typically don't end up with a dress code because it's sometimes in the culture of one group that the dress code rises strongly. So if we said we're gonna go to an all black church, then we would say, okay, listen, dresses, you know, like it's really, these are a lot of details. Because we're going to a mixed culture church and part of their mission and their goal is to reach out cross-culturally, they're also reaching out truly cross experientially. So they're expecting that people are coming in dressed very different. Can you go back to the picture of the pastor?
You look pretty dressed up.
Yeah.
I think. Sorry.
It might go back. So it's really good, but you know, when I'm looking at these kind of things like churches, I'm like, Chris I know well. I've known Chris for years, known his son, known his family, and interacted with him well. This is Chris. He's gonna look at your code and say the same thing I said, but he's gonna probably have on a pair of jeans. Sunday morning, he might be a little dressier, but the church won't be. Okay, right there. Yeah. Can you put that into regular mode for a second? Yeah, slideshow mode. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so you know, I'm studying these things, right? So here's what I've got. He's wearing jeans and a really expensive jacket. There you go. So that tells me the answer is everything's okay. Because in a really formal African-American setting, that's not okay. And there's no tie. So again, even for a picture with your spouse that's gonna be available out there, that is not okay. So that tells me that he's really gonna be absolutely fine. I do know Chris personally, but if I didn't, this is what I would do. I look at that picture and I go, he's got jeans on, no tie, we're good.
And that's a pantsuit.
Yeah, now, right, that's a pantsuit. And, you know, I would say that in the kind of interesting thing, in the setting of the church, I would say his wife will always be the dressiest person in the room. She will always be dressed, but I think there's not shame or disrespect given to people who aren't. That's really good. And even if it was a more tense place, sometimes I like to go places that are really unique like that, they would give us a pass. The reason they would give us a pass is because we're guests. That there is a warmth to guests that really extends out quite a ways.
There's a hospitality.
It's a hospitality that overrides the dress code. But that's a great question. That's a great question. Let me say something about pictures. I did mention pictures, but we didn't get into it. Normally, I always want to stop and, when we are taking pictures, let's be aware of the community that's around us. So we are looking at a tragic thing. And so it's not all tragedy though. But even as we're taking pictures, I just want us to take a moment. I would say probably more important than even the place you are is look at the people around you. Think about how they're feeling and the people that are outside our group. We're on an experience. They're living this every day. So if it looks like what we're taking a picture of would be inappropriate, then pause. Choose not to take the picture. There are places that we've been on trips like this that I say, I wish I could see a picture of that, but I know the right answer is just remember. Just remember, you're seeing something, God's given you, you think about the words of the Word of God, remember, remember, remember. And so sometimes there's something that you're seeing and you have to say, this is not for a picture, this is for me. I need to know this. And that's also part of an experience. Any other questions we could answer for you as well?
How soon do we need to decide going on this trip?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it would be helpful if we knew by the beginning of December. That would be helpful. If we knew, that'd be very helpful. If we could know the beginning of December, that would be best.
The reason I ask is because I'm not scheduled to teach daytime. This is the first time, and I haven't been visiting my family for more than 2 years.
Oh,
Yeah, and
wow.
Hong Kong is still 21 days quarantine at a hotel.
Oh, my
Still,
word.
yeah, so I mean, my mom said that don't come back because, you don't have the money, 21 days at a hotel. After 21 days, how many more days I can
You
stay with
stay.
them?
Yeah.
So that's why, I also want to go on this trip, but
Yeah.
it seems like very unlikely I could go back to visit my mom,
Yeah, the same.
so,
Yeah.
yeah.
But we'll pray for you that you will be able to visit your mom. First of all,
Yeah.
I understand that.
But if not, then we'll be in the summer,
Yeah.
hopefully this virus will be,
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. So, understand this too, that if there's a late thing that happens, we'll figure that out. We will figure that out.
Yeah.
And then also think about the people that you're engaging with. There are a lot of people on our campus and I talk to them every day. And I don't want to make somebody feel uncomfortable, but they want to go, but they're trying to figure it out. They really want to, I think even sharing what you learned today from your perspective is sometimes better, than either of us sharing this or any of us sharing this. I think sometimes you sharing, going back to your world, saying, I went to this meeting and here's what it was about, might really help someone else who's thinking about it. And I would encourage you, as you're thinking about each of our individuals' attendance, pray for other people in our community who are thinking about whether they can attend it. In the area of diversity, one of the goals that we would have is that we would remove both the stigma, the nervousness, the tension of learning about this. And so this is one of the challenges in any learning environment is that when you talk about diversity, it's a lot of tension that goes with that. And we really want to make it so that you can learn. There might be tensions things that you experience, but that doesn't stop you from being able to really take that in completely and enjoy it. And so we don't want to be the barriers for that. That's our open heart. So I know as I talk to some people, I know what they're worried about. They're worried like, man, what if we get there and they start talking about things I don't like or I think differently than everybody else in the group? that this is what this belonging exercise was about to say.
Or I accidentally say the wrong thing.
Yeah, right,
you know?
yeah, accidentally say the wrong thing. I'll turn things back over to Barb by saying that hanging in my office is a picture. It's the size of a door, so it's actually, it is a door. It's turned sideways, and it's a picture of a young lady, her name is Hannah. Hannah's from Maine. She is European descent. In the picture, she has her hands over her mouth. And then Hannah said that when she grew up in Maine, and everyone around her looked the same. So she said she grew up in a house that her mom grew up in, and in a house that her mom grew up in. Her dad grew up on the next block over in a house that his dad grew up in. And so she said when she went to school, she heard all this talk about differences and diversity, and it really made her nervous. And so she felt like she couldn't speak about it. And so also in the picture, there are these other hands, and they're all different colors, and they're pulling her hands away from her mouth. And so I said, Hannah, what was that? What is this? And she said, well, when I got to school, I met people that helped me belong. And they encouraged me that I was part of the conversation, that I could be part of the process. And so I hurt my back doing it, but I said, man, I'm buying your picture and I need to take it with me. And it was the first thing that we hung in my office. And even when we moved offices a few times, we made sure that picture got up, and somewhere where I'm looking at it all the time to help us know that we can be part of this conversation together. We should be part of this conversation.
Well, thank you. It's a little after 5, but I did want you to think and process as you're trying to either decide or think forward to this, what it would mean for you to contribute to a sense of belonging on the bus, our group. And are there barriers that you anticipate you might be facing either in a group or in our experiences? I think if we can name a barrier that we anticipate, it helps to reduce the barrier, just naming it. So just think about those things, and then we will be having another time where we get together, at least to give you the journals, because you might be even thinking, processing ahead, these are the things that I'm anticipating or I'm concerned about or whatever. So thank you so much for coming. You can grab some food on the way out. Thank you for those who are online and or Zooming or watching video. So thank you very much.